Hello there and a very good evening. This is Primetime News on TV1. Today is the 26th of June 2023. For the News First team, I'm Jayama Ratnayaka.
And I'm Theruni Karuna Ratna. Let's start off by taking a look at your headlines for this evening.
Sri Lanka's debt restructuring plan to Cabinet on Wednesday and to Parliament during the weekend. Sri Lanka's Foreign Minister and 12 other MPs, including Namal Rajapaksa, in China for talks including debt. Opposition wants the President to reveal the debt program. CBSL Governor assures no impact in local deposits and interest revenue. Court of Appeal invalidates the Attorney General's request to name Deshabandhu Tennakoon as a suspect in cases on attacking Gota Gogama. Civil activist Piyatni Keshala arrested by the CID.
In our top story for tonight, Sri Lankan President Ranil Wickremesinghe said that the country's debt restructuring program will be presented to Cabinet on Wednesday, the 28th of June, and will be debated in Parliament during the weekend. He made these comments while speaking to France 24 during his visit to France.
Discussions are going on with the different groups. Have an agreement with Lazard to represent us, and the debt restructuring program will be presented to Cabinet on Wednesday. I think over the weekend they're hoping to finalize it. It will go to Parliament on Friday before the Public Finance Committee. Then Saturday and Sunday it will be debated in Parliament and will be approved by Parliament. Thereafter, we can start the rest of the negotiations with our creditors.
What's in this plan? I mean, what's the idea? To postpone the debt, to reduce it, a combination of both?
Well, it's a question of giving a longer period for repayment, and we've also been looking at some form of a reduction in the amount due. So those are being discussed now, and hopefully by Sunday or Monday, the final document will be available to us.
In Paris, there was an agreement on the debt from Zambia with both the Western creditors and China. Is this a good omen for your country, which shows, obviously every situation is different, that there is indeed a possibility to find an agreement with both China and other creditors?
We are confident of China coming along with the others. The Zambian one was announced this week, and it's good that China has been able to sort out Zambia. I listened to the speech of the Chinese Prime Minister at the dinner, working dinner. It shows China, for the first time, China has shown its approach to the whole issue of debt restructuring, and it's
Zambia will pay interest rates of as low as 1% until 2037 as part of its debt restructuring deal secured with nations including China this week. Zambia's official creditors, led by China, have agreed to provide debt relief to the southern African nation, paving the way for an IMF bailout and settling a precedent for how Beijing could work with other lenders to tackle the threat of a wave of defaults across emerging markets. Sri Lanka's Foreign Minister and 12 other MPs who are members of the Sri Lanka-China Friendship Association are in China for a visit. Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang has met Sri Lankan Foreign Minister Ali Sabri in Beijing. Qin told his Sri Lankan counterpart that Beijing is willing to strengthen its strategic partnership with Sri Lanka, as well as boost high-quality cooperation on the Belt and Road Initiative to help Sri Lanka develop its economy and improve people's lives. Sabri said his country appreciates China's help in solving its debt issues. He added that Sri Lanka welcomes Chinese enterprises to invest in the country. The two sides also exchanged opinions on international and regional issues. China's CGTN posed a question to Sri Lankan MP Namal Rajapaksa on whether the island nation is in a Chinese debt trap.
IMF data suggests that from China makes up only 3.5% of the Sri Lanka's total debt, and also while the West and Japan account for majority. So how do you think? What's your take on China's the so-called debt trap diplomacy?
It's all about geopolitics. So unfortunately, for the last 2 decades, Sri Lanka has been a victim. The most of the infrastructure that they're talking of restructuring are developed by the Chinese funds. So if it is a trap, who is going to come and invest? Why do they have to invest? Simply, it's not because it's a profitable venture or it's a lucrative business, and because the strategic location has been used properly, they're looking at restructuring and getting investments in.
Opposition factions led by the Samugi Janabala Vegaya met in Parliament on Monday to discuss the proposed debt restructuring program that will be presented to the House later this week.
The party meeting on Tuesday was pushed to Friday. They have given 5 holidays. The opposition would like to know what the government is preparing to do. The government, with the central bank governor and the state minister of finance, said there will be no restructuring, and the president was silent. Now they say the debt will be restructured. We are unclear about this move. The people also want to know what the government is trying to do in secret. We will look at the proposal put forward by the government. The government is concealing everything. The president called the opposition leader and myself and said what he expects to do. That is not enough. The opposition leader is the head of the opposition. The president should come into an understanding with us. Casting aside the opposition leader and other members of the opposition from these discussions is not a good thing.
Professor G.L. Piris explains the stance of the Freedom People's Congress.
Now we cannot pass the blame to the IMF for any reason. This is not a proposal or creation of the IMF at all. They did not force us in any way or form. They were notified of the government's decisions. What is the government's decision? It is to carry out domestic debt restructuring. 20 countries told the IMF that they need help and assistance. However, for whatever reason, we cannot agree to domestic debt restructuring. The problem here isn't whether or not we report to the IMF. What do we agree to? What do we disagree to? Our main criticism is that during this discussion with the IMF, Sri Lanka maintained an extremely scary policy. We wanted to boast that we obtained a victory in a political standpoint. That was our main intention. Because of that, we now have to face this kind of situation.
JVP trade unions filed a fundamental rights petition at the Supreme Court seeking an interim order to prevent employees' funds from being affected by the restructuring process.
Be it the public or private sector, once an employee works at a certain workplace, a certain percentage is cut off for the employee's provident fund. This exists as a large financial unit. However, this money is invested by the government from time to time. Now, what is going to happen? They are going to cut off a certain amount of this fund under the debt restructuring program. This is what affects the employee. This is a violation of Article 14(1)(g) of the Constitution. We request the Supreme Court to prevent this violation from taking place.
Only reason for this announcement is to have a sufficient time window for the Parliament, Cabinet and the other processes to take place and announce a strategy when markets open after this long holiday period. Secondly, I must also announce that this domestic debt repair strategy that has been suggested in consultation with the Central Bank and the Minister of Finance would not anyway have an adverse impact on bank deposits in terms of there will be no reduction in deposits, bank deposits that people are having with commercial banks and non-bank institutions. There will be no reduction in interest rates that they are right now contracted and enjoying, that they are getting in terms of their contracts and fixed deposits or any other deposits. Banks, if they are agree to give some interest rates, this will continue to be received by public deposits, and deposit holders will not be affected adversely.
On to another story that has been making the rounds on social circles. Some of the beneficiaries who were excluded from the Aswasuma social welfare program engaged in island-wide protests earlier today. They have been given time until the 10th of July to submit their appeals.
Now, on the 12th of May, Sri Lanka's parliament approved a new welfare benefit plan, which would consolidate existing social welfare schemes and allow beneficiaries to enter and exit depending on changing incomes. The proposal was approved by the parliament without a vote.
A group of Samurdhi beneficiaries staged a protest opposite the Dimbulagala Divisional Secretariat for almost 3 hours, blocking the Polonnaruwa Mahiyangane main road. A heated situation arose when the chairman of the Coordination Committee of the Polonnaruwa district, SLPP parliamentarian Jagat Samaravikrama, attempted to discuss matters with the group. Another group staged a protest blocking the Polonnaruwa Batikalo main road. Samurdhi beneficiaries excluded from the Aswasuma social welfare program who visited the Kantale Divisional Secretariat to hand in their appeals also staged a protest along the Trincomalee-Colombo main road. Although the group attempted to meet the Divisional Secretary, their attempts were futile. Following the heated situation that arose at that moment, few of the protesters were granted permission to meet the Divisional Secretary. Another group of individuals staged a protest opposite the Karandeniya Divisional Secretariat, and when the Divisional Secretary asked them to submit appeals, this was the situation that arose. Yet another group of Samurdhi beneficiaries staged a protest opposite the Vilgamu Divisional Secretariat in Matale. This is the protest that was staged blocking the airport road in front of the Hambantota administrative complex. The group later entered the administration complex and 5 of them were granted permission for a discussion with the Divisional Secretary. The fisheries community of Totamuna in Matara staged a protest blocking the main junction. A large number of Samurdhi beneficiaries who had been excluded from the Aswasuma social welfare program visited the Minipe Divisional Secretariat in Hasalaka to hand in their appeals. The divisional secretary informed the people that if the benefits were not received and slashed, information can only be provided after appeals are filed. A large crowd had gathered at the Dehiyattakandiya Divisional Secretariat to hand in their appeals as well. They staged a protest opposite the office demanding fair action. This is the protest that was staged opposite the Central Nuwaragampalata Divisional Secretariat in Anuradhapura. The group staged a protest by blocking the entrance to the Divisional Secretary's office and discussed with the Assistant Divisional Secretary who visited the premises. The local residents were informed to file their appeals. During the protest, which was blocking the A9 main road near the Vaunia Divisional Secretariat, the people demanded that the Aswasuma social welfare program should take place in a justifiable manner. This is the protest that was staged in Nuwara.
දැන් මේ මොහොතේ අපි සියලු ප්‍රතිලාභ අපේක්ෂා කරන තැනැත්තන් සහ පවුල් කළ යුතු වන්නේ.
At this moment, we as people and families who are expecting all the benefits should not be protesting in front of divisional secretariats. In fact, we implemented this program according to the provisions of the Act in a certain way, meaning we implemented this program step by step. We first collected applications and then created a census according to the Provisions Act. It was then submitted to the selection committee. After that, the system was implemented in accordance with the approval of the divisional secretary. This work was done according to the formula that has been fed into the system. We are being accused of feeding false information to the census officer and including some ineligible people in this list. This is the major objection to our program at this time. Taking all that into consideration, we must take a decision regarding these applications. Should they be included in the list? Should their data be re-edited or should the appeals be rejected? Accordingly, we are working to create a final list. More news follows after this short commercial break.
Stay tuned to Primetime News.
When a heart attack strikes, every minute makes the difference between life and death. With the right care and treatment at the hand of the most skilled surgeons and medical professionals. With the perfect environment for recovery. Darden's Heart Center, dedicated to you.
Welcome back to the news. 2 legal proceedings initiated against Senior Deputy Inspector General of Police of the Western Province, Deshabandhu Thennakoon, over the incidents that transpired during the 2022 protests were quashed by the Court of Appeal.
The Court of Appeal quashed the letter issued by the Attorney General naming Deshabandhu Thennakoon as a suspect over the attacks on Gotagogama at the Golfers Green on 9th May 2022. The petitioner had noted that the Attorney General represented the CID from the beginning in this case and never made an application to be made as suspect, and the magistrate also did not make the petitioner a suspect. He noted that despite the protest, the tenure of the Inspector General of Police was extended by 3 months from March 2023, and that suddenly a communication was sent to the IGP stating that the petitioner had abetted in the commission of offences punishable under the Penal Code. The letter from the Attorney General to the IGP noted that a statement be recorded from the senior DIG as a suspect. The petitioner noted that the CID did not seek such advice from the Attorney General and there was no evidence requesting for such advice. He noted that these could be attempts used to prevent him from being appointed as the Inspector General of Police and noted that the timing of the letter would have a serious detrimental effect on the promotional prospects of the petitioner. He also noted that the Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka appointed a committee of inquirers, conducted a thorough and comprehensive inquiry about the conduct of the petitioner and exonerated him from being guilty of any offence. The Court of Appeal in its order reiterated that the letter from the Attorney General had come under exceptional circumstances as there is no evidence against a senior DIG to charge him for abetting the offences punishable under the Penal Code. The order notes that the Attorney General had acted beyond his powers and the decision taken by the Attorney General to prosecute the petitioners is unjust and unjustified. The Court of Appeal also quashed the summons issued by the Colombo Fort Magistrate against SDIG Thennakoon as a suspect over the discovery of 17.8 million rupees that was found at the President's house in Colombo by protesters who stormed the premises in 2022. The notices were quashed when the writ petition filed by the senior police officer was taken up for consideration. President's counsel Dr. Ramesh De Silva PC and several other counsel including Sugat Caldera and Niran Ankitel appeared for senior DIG Deshabandhu Thennakoon.
A program organized in conjunction with the International Day Against Drug Abuse and Illicit Trafficking was held at the Sri Lanka Foundation Institute. The program was led by Minister of Public Security Tiran Nalas. Senior Deputy Inspector General of Police Deshabandhu Thennakoon was also present.
RSC Rajapaksha.
Social activist Piyat Nikeshala was arrested by the Criminal Investigations Department once more today.
Piyat Nikeshala had been summoned to the CID this morning to record a statement.
අද දින අපරාධ පරීක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවෙන් මාහට කැදවීමක් ලැබිලා තියෙනවා.
I was summoned to the CID to provide a statement regarding the damage caused to the President's house last year. We carried out a struggle within the Argale to protect the items and goods at the President's house. This was a people's struggle. There can be thieves, scammers and looters within such a struggle. I struggled to protect those items from such people. I have evidence of those in my live videos. I believe setting fire to the President's office was a black mark on the Argale. Our version of the Argale was based on peace and love, and it did not represent the destruction of property. We wouldn't have even occupied official residences if Gotabaya Rajapaksa resigned. Had we not done that, he would still be the president. He now claims that he held back authorities from firing at the masses. This is only to earn sympathy, but he is the same person who shot people in Ramukkana and ordered to fire expired tear gas at people. Young people lost their lives due to those. We have no connection to the anarchy that was caused at the current president's residence. An inquiry must be held to ascertain who did in fact cause the fire. That wasn't a house built by looting the people's money. We have witnessed leaders who even constructed memorials for their parents using public funds. He did not do that when constructing his house. We will fully support the police, CID and others to find out who set fire to his house.
පැහැදිලිවම කියන්න ඕනේ එතුමාගේ නිවස එතුමා ජනතා බදු මුදල් හොරකම් කරලා ඉදිකරගත්ත නිවසක් නෙමෙයි. අපි පූර්ණ සහයෝගය ලබා දෙනවා පොලිසියට මේ අපරාධ පරීක්ෂණ දෙපාර්තමේන්තුවට එතුමාගේ නිවස කවුද ගිනි තිබ්බේ ඒ ගැන පරීක්ෂණ කටයුතු කරන්න.
Piyat Nikeshala, who was arrested, is set to be produced in court tomorrow.
Officials from Thailand have said that the ailing Thai elephant will be flown from Sri Lanka in 7 days.
Training for a Thai elephant in Sri Lanka named Saksarin or Muthuraja to familiarize it with conditions in a flight cage has been proceeding satisfactory, with the animal getting along well with the Thai mahouts. This was confirmed by Athafen Cheroinchansa, the Director General of the Thai Department of National Parks, Wildlife and Plant Conservation. He said that Muthuraja was trained to enter and exit the cage and to stay in the cage for up to 2 hours at night, with the cage doors shut on both sides and its legs tied with ropes to the 4 corners of the cage. He said officials will move to the next step on Wednesday by using a crane to lift the cage with Muthuraja inside from the ground onto a truck, adding that officials must exercise great caution for this exercise, which will continue until the elephant is flown from Sri Lanka to Chiang Mai on the 2nd of July. Muthuraja will be moved from the Dehiwala Zoo in Colombo to the airport on the 1st of July. It will be loaded onto a chartered flight at 7:30 a.m. the next morning. The flight is expected to arrive in Chiang Mai the same day at about 1 p.m. For safety, he said that another team of veterinarians and mahouts will be deployed to Chiang Mai airport on the 2nd of July to assess the condition of the elephant upon arrival. If the elephant is in good shape, it will be trucked straight to the Elephant Conservation Center in Lampang on the same day. If it appears to be stressed and tired after the 6-hour flight, however, officials will have it sent to Chiang Mai Safari to rest instead of Chiang Mai Zoo as originally planned. Muthuraja was presented as a gift from the Thai government to Sri Lanka at the age of 10 in 2001.
30 petitioners, including the Wildlife and Nature Protection Society of Sri Lanka, have filed action in the Court of Appeal against the statement made by Minister Mahinda Amaravira regarding the exporting of 2 macaque monkeys from Sri Lanka to China.
The controversy of the government proposal to export 100,000 Sri Lankan monkeys to China was taken up in the Court of Appeal today. The case was taken up on Monday, where the Attorney General stated that the Department of Wildlife and Conservation had issued instructions mentioning that they would not be taking steps to export monkeys to China. The case will be taken up again in the Court of Appeal on the 6th of July 2023. President's Counsel Sanjeeva Jayawardena with Counsels Prashanti Mahindaratna, Lakmini Varusevithana and Rukshan Senadeva appeared for the petitioners.
The LOLC Divisavya program, launched to lend a helping hand to students of Sri Lanka, took place in the Balangoda Education Zone in the Ratnapura district.
School books and other stationery items were distributed among students. This worth initiative is a collaboration between the LOLC group and the Ministry of Education. School books and other stationery items were distributed among students of the Megoda Valeboda Vidyalaya, Imbulpe Uspim Vyapara Vidyalaya, Kumbul Mulla Vidyalaya, Ulupitiya Vidyalaya, Madegama Mayadunna Vidyalaya, Mamal Gaha Vidyalaya, Denagama Vidyalaya, Sri Sumana Vidyalaya, Mulgama Vidyalaya and several other schools in the Balangoda Education Zone. At the same time, school books and stationery items were given to 561 students at the Balangoda Zonal Education Office. Another LOLC Divisavya program distributed school books and stationery items to students of the Pallebadda Thambagamuwa Vidyalaya, Miyanakoladeniya Vidyalaya and Vaulpana Vidyalaya in the Ambilipiti Education Zone. School books and stationery items were also provided to students of schools in the Nivitigal Education Zone. The LOLC Divisavya program will press on in their endeavour to support the education of these children.
A program using drones to identify dengue breeding areas was conducted last Friday in Colombo. This was a joint program by Suren Cook Agencies Private Limited and the Colombo Municipal Council.
Drones were used to locate the dengue breeding places in Colombo 13. The program was conducted by Suren Cook along with the Colombo Municipal Council.
The pilgrimage of Hajj has begun as crowds of Muslims donning white robes circle the Kaaba, the cubed structure at the epicenter of Islam's holiest site, their prayers ringing through the air. The annual pilgrimage began on Sunday in Mecca, Saudi Arabia, with the Tawaf, the circling of the Kaaba, in an event that is expected to break attendance records. An official at the Saudi Ministry of Hajj and Umrah said this year that they will witness the largest Hajj pilgrimage in history. More than 2.5 million Muslims are expected to take part as coronavirus pandemic restrictions in place since 2020 have been fully relaxed. That year, just 10,000 people were permitted to participate, 59,000 in 2021, and last year there was a cap of 1 million people. On Sunday evening, the pilgrims will begin making their way to Mina, about 8 kilometers from Mecca's Al-Masjid Al-Haram, or the Grand Mosque, before they gather at Mount Arafat, where Prophet Muhammad is believed to have delivered his final sermon. Mina is prepared for the pilgrims, with food supplies brought in and security forces deployed. Saudi authorities said more than 32,000 health workers and thousands of ambulances are on standby to treat cases of heat stroke, dehydration and exhaustion. The Islamic ritual is obligatory for every able-bodied Muslim adult who has the financial means to take part, forming one of the 5 pillars of the religion. The physically and emotionally challenging experience is meant to cleanse followers of sin and bring them closer to God. This year's Hajj is being held between the 26th of June and the 1st of July, with the celebration of Eid al-Adha taking place on the 29th of June.
In sports news, the qualifiers for the ICC Cricket World Cup 2023 are currently underway, and some exciting matches were held today as well. And there is certainly cheering news for Sri Lankan fans. The Netherlands beat West Indies earlier today by scoring 30 runs in a super over without losing any wickets after the scores were tied in a nail-biting ICC Cricket World Cup qualifier in Harare a short while ago. West Indies were only able to score 8 runs in the super over but also lost 2 early wickets. Earlier, West Indies scored 374 for 6 wickets, which seemed to be a safe total before the Netherlands chased it down and ended on 374 for the loss of 9 wickets. Teja Nidaramanuru top scored for the Netherlands with a whirlwind 111 runs of just 76 balls, while Nicholas Pooran top scored for the Windies with 104 runs of only 65 balls. Then in the super over, Logan Van Beek slammed 3 sixes and 3 fours to set the Windies a near impossible target that they were ultimately unable to achieve. The loss by the West Indies greatly increases Sri Lanka's chances of finishing in the top 2 of the Super Sixers round, along with Zimbabwe, as West Indies will find it almost impossible to get in. Zimbabwe, Netherlands and the West Indies qualified for the Super Sixers from Group A. Zimbabwe tops Group A and takes 4 points into the Super Sixers, while the Netherlands finished second and takes 2 points. West Indies finished in third place in Group A but have 0 points. Sri Lanka, Scotland and Oman qualified from Group B, with a crucial match between Sri Lanka and Scotland to be held tomorrow, Tuesday, to determine who will top the group with 4 points and who will be second with 2 points. Oman will end in third place with 0 points.
Sean Williams hit 174 of 101 balls as Zimbabwe crushed the United States by 304 runs at the Cricket World Cup qualifiers, the second biggest winning margin in terms of runs in ODI history.
Wicketkeeper Joy Lord Gambi struck a steady 78 at the top of the order, but Williams played the starring role as Zimbabwe stepped on the accelerator once the stand-in captain arrived at the crease. Williams hit 21 fours and 5 sixers before he was caught in the deep in the penultimate over, with Sikandar Raza scoring 48 of 27 balls and Ryan Burl hammering 47 of just 16 deliveries. Host Zimbabwe made its highest one-day total with a mammoth 408 for 6 of 50 overs and then bowled out the USA for just 104 to seal a 4th straight win in Group A.
And that's a wrap of your primetime news here on TV1.
For the News First team, I'm Jayama Ratnaik. Thank you for stopping by. Also, a gentle reminder to tune in to Sirasa TV and TV1 to watch the ICC World Cup qualifiers tomorrow. Sri Lanka will take on Scotland in Bulawayo, and the live action starts at 12:30. So that is a kind reminder to join TV1 and Sirasa TV for the ICC World Cup qualifiers. Thank you very much for watching Primetime News tonight. Take care and good night.